What is the absolute worst game you ever played? Maybe you thought of a game that was disappointing, or maybe you thought of a game that is filled with bugs and glitches. Although a few games I personally don't really like came to mind, I decided to find the definitive answer. I found a list of the top 100 lowest rated games on Steam, and I'm going to play them all to find out which game I personally think is the worst. Now let's spin the wheel and get ready to go dumpster diving. Headshot. Oh no. Picture this. The year is 2016. Battlefield 1, Titanfall 2, Dark Souls 3, The Witness, Overwatch, Stardew Valley. So many fun and unique games are coming out that mostly hold up to this day. But the good times can't last forever, as Satan himself decides that he also wants to release a game. Here's Headshot, another dumpster diving game that's trying to gaslight me into being French. You almost had me, game, but I'm going with the Brits on this one. Wow, look at how beautiful this menu is. I love the way that each box is as far away as possible from the other ones. I love how the text is too big for the box in the bottom right, and I love how the help button has a question mark, like even it's confused about what's going on. Since this is a multiplayer only game and there's nobody else online, I could just say I gave it the old college try and end the video right here. Unfortunately for me, however, I know someone who has nothing better to do on a Friday night than to play this absolutely garbage game with me. If you decide to torture yourself by actually starting up a match, then you're met with 4 main classes to choose from, each sucking in their own ways. You have the Assault, a class with an inaccurate gun since the sights don't even remotely line up to where the gun shoots. You have the Machine Gunner, who has a sniper scope on his machine gun and sounds like he's clinically depressed.
I'm Machine Gunner.
You have the Sniper, whose gun can take anywhere from a few seconds between shots to around 15 seconds before you're allowed to shoot again. Finally, you have the Engineer. Can you guess what kind of gun an Engineer would have? If you guessed a shotgun, you're wrong. He has a rocket launcher, obviously. Aside from the primary weapon, each class is exactly the same. They all have the same pistol, the same knife, and the same 20 grenades that we just shove inside of ourselves, I guess. The combat here is relatively simple and terrible. When you're shooting at an enemy, it takes less than a second to kill them since you take so much damage in this game. You'd think that with an armor bar in the bottom right that there's some sort of damage reduction in the game, and you'd be wrong. Even though you take more damage from being shot in the legs than you do being shot in the heart, it only takes 2 shots to kill you no matter where you shoot. And when you're being shot at, you can't see any of the projectiles coming towards you. This is especially true for the rocket launcher, so sometimes you just randomly die without knowing when someone shot at you. It doesn't help that the hit detection in this game is awful too. When you get a headshot, it's an instant kill. The issue is everything can be a headshot. A sniper rifle,
headshot.
A rocket launcher,
Headshot.
even a knife stab can be a headshot. Speaking of knives, I've never heard a more loud melee attack in my life. Even if you're literally on the other side of the map, the melee effect is so loud that it sounds like your enemies are standing right next to you. When you combine that with how loud your steps are, you can never tell where anyone is because it always sounds like there's someone right in front of you. Not that you'd want anyone right in front of you because of how awful these characters look. I can't even make fun of the running or jumping animations because the developer couldn't be bothered to make any. Do you know what I can make fun of though? The maps. Oh god, the maps. Let's take the airport for example. There's random floating text that just says airport. There appears to be 2 different shadows for each object even though the only source of light is from the sun, and at one point you can just walk right off the map. Don't even get me started on the collision either, since you can just walk through half the objects. Honestly, most of these maps just suck. There's one map that's a basic arena with some boxes, another map that's the exact same except it's slightly bigger, and a map that's untextured for some reason. Then the maps that do have some detail are just straight up broken. The fire map has rocks that you can see right through, the city map throws you into the air every time you spawn in it, and this shanty map has a giant fence around it that no other map has. There's only 2 things that each map in this game has in common. First, on every single map in this game, there's at least one part that randomly flings you super high into the air like the giants from Skyrim. These aren't even niche spots either. For the most part, it happened when we were just trying to play the game normally. Second, almost every single map has a spot where you can get out of bounds. Sometimes it took a little bit of effort to hop out of bounds, and other times it was extremely easy since there was nothing stopping you. I think the part that bothers me the most though is the fact that the game blatantly wasn't playtested. There's so many instances of UI elements that look so out of place and could be easily fixed. I already talked about the random locations of the buttons and the fact that some of the text leaves the bounds of the box it's in, but what about the fact that some maps have a 1 after them while other maps don't? Or the fact that only some maps have the word map in the name like farm map and map orange? How about the fact that team deathmatch has no space between the words? How about the fact that grenade is spelled 2 different ways in the class select? There's also several extremely obvious glitches in the game, like how you can move your gun up and down when the game's paused, or how the text glitches in the top right when you die. Oh, and did I forget to mention that the game just straight up lies to you multiple times? The controls list mentions several things that you just can't do in the game, like turn on a flashlight, crouch, or go prone. There's buttons for a medic class and a zombies mode that just aren't implemented in the game. In the update section, it claims that there's achievements for the game when in reality there aren't any, and from what I was able to find online, Map Orange is a stolen community map from TF2. Even the store page of the game's full of lies. The trailer shows the windmill and some cars on the farm map moving, which isn't present in the actual game. In fact, there's several screenshots of classes and guns that don't exist anywhere in the game. There's also 2 random screenshots of a chest and a key as if the game had planned on including some sort of loot boxes or something. The description of the game is extremely misleading too. Ignoring the fact that it claims that there's a medic class and shotguns in the game, it also claims that there are vehicles. While that's technically true, you can't actually interact with any of the vehicles in-game. That's such a scummy way of trying to trick people into buying your game. And get this, apparently Headshot is still in early access. According to the developers, they expected the game to leave early access after approximately 5 months since they didn't, quote, want to make another multiplayer game that will die slowly after release and be unplayable because of lack of players, end quote. So, did the developers try to fix Headshot to avoid it dying out like they said they would? No. Instead, they let the game die slowly after release and be unplayable because of lack of players because they were too busy releasing another first-person shooter 6 months later called Shot Tactic. And guess what? That game also died slowly after release and became unplayable because of lack of players. I tried to look at the developers to see if I could get anything on their side of the story, but since the name on Steam is the incredibly vague indie game group, it was literally impossible to find any information on them. At first, I thought Headshot was a game that was so bad that it was fun to play. Listening to the outrageously bad sound effects, playing on terrible glitchy maps, I was actually enjoying myself a lot. But I cannot condone a game that actively lies to its players and steals assets from other people. There is no excuse for this honestly fraudulent behavior in game development, and it's apparent that developers knew what they were doing since they hid behind a vague name on Steam. Not only that, but they immediately repeated all of their mistakes in their next game by doing the exact same thing they swore they didn't want to do. Headshot is not only the worst game I've played so far, but I genuinely believe that it should be removed from the Steam store. Anyway, I hope to see you guys again next week. Peace out.